Bob Beauprez, who is the longtime treasurer over at the American Conservative Union, also known as ACU, that's the organization that puts on the annual CPAC conference. Well, he has resigned. He quit his job Tuesday night in a fiery resignation letter that claims that the finances over at the organization were too obscure, specifically regarding ACU chairman Matt Schlapp and his ongoing sexual harassment lawsuit. Now, the sexual harassment lawsuit has to do with a staffer that he had allegedly groped. So let's get to the details of that. So for those who aren't familiar, back in January of this year, a Republican staffer by the name of Carlton Huffman accused Schlapp of groping him while they were campaigning specifically for Herschel Walker. So he was a staffer for Herschel Walker's campaign. They were traveling in the car. Schlapp denied that he had groped Huffman and then filed a $9.4 million defamation lawsuit. Well, he filed a defamation lawsuit against Schlapp after Schlapp denied it. This is where Beauprez comes in, because after that lawsuit was filed, he quickly noticed some pretty suspicious financial activity happening over at CPAC. I'm gonna give you the details on that, and I'm gonna give you some excerpts from his letter in just a moment. But before I do, Cenk, it is amazing to me that the accusations against Schlapp happened back in January, and the mainstream Republican Party doesn't care at all. I mean, several big name Republican lawmakers went to the CPAC conference and spoke. I mean, Ted Cruz is an example. He had no problem showing up to speak.
They always protect their own. And they know something we don't know, which is a giant percentage of Republican leaders are gay. And so I talked to you guys about an article I read a while back. It goes all the way back to the 1970s and 80s. They are constantly having sex with one another behind the scenes. And so, in fact, so much so they were worried that Ronald Reagan was part of the gay agenda to take over the government, okay? And so this is as old as time. And why? Because a fairly sizable percentage of the population is gay, but not out of the closet yet. And a lot of them go over to the right wing because they unfortunately have issues with how they view themselves, usually because of a religious upbringing. So it's not surprising that a right-wing leader is, and being, of course, we're left-wingers, we don't think there's anything wrong with being gay, but pummeling someone's crotch at length,
that's what he alleged.
Which is literally what this guy said Schlapp did to him, is not being LGBTQ, that's actually sexual assault. So the guy didn't ask for it, Schlapp goes over for some schlippity schlap.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, right, please, okay. So, and he said, I don't know what at length means, but that he pummeled his crotch at length, right? And this is not the first allegation against Schlapp. Look, this is pretty obvious stuff as to what's going on. And my guess is that the other Republican leaders, they're defending Schlapp because they always knew that Schlapp was gay, right? That's my guess. That one I don't know if, I don't have details to back that up. But either way, we do know now, they definitely know that he has done this to at least this guy. The allegations come with tons of receipts, including a video that guy shot on the night of, explaining what happened to him, etc. Other people coming out, and now they know, and they don't mind at all. And all those attacks against LGBTQ folks, by the way, that's just to rile up their base and drive hatred so they can get more votes, so they can pass tax cuts for the rich.
So it appears that at least based on what we know from his resignation letter, the now former ACU treasurer is concerned about how some of the funds for CPAC have been used. He is concerned that Schlapp is misappropriating some of those funds for his, legal defense. And so let's get to those details. Days after Huffman's lawsuit was filed, Beauprez wrote that ACU's executive committee fronted Schlapp $50,000 so he could immediately retain a lawyer. Schlapp hired Ben Chew, a prominent litigator who recently defended Johnny Depp in his lawsuit against Amber Heard. Now, the treasurer wrote that he was blindsided when Schlapp told him that he had raised another $270,000 from donors to ACU and its related foundation, ACUF. His shock grew when he said ACU's lawyer told him in February that CPAC, that the money was, quote, already either dispersed or invoiced. Now, in his letter, the now former treasurer also stated that since that exchange, he had received no additional information about Schlapp's case or how much was being spent on it. So he says, all of us as directors not only have a right, but a fiduciary obligation to be made aware of what, how, and why monies are being spent, especially involving a corporation insider such as the chairman. The case is now nearly 5 months old and the full board has never been fully briefed. And he's worried about like misuse of funds. He's worried about blowback or backlash if he continues on with this charade. A few of us have sought answers to some of what seem to be obvious and necessary questions. As a result, we have been accused of not having Matt's back and trying to stage a leadership coup. So I gotta be honest, this reminds me of what happened at Project Veritas, right? The accusations against O'Keefe at Project Veritas was that he was misusing funds. He ended up getting pushed out of the organization, and then we were awarded with this incredible music video that he put together that I can never forget about. But nonetheless, this does seem to be an ongoing pattern or trend among right-wing organizations.
Yeah. So the part that I'm most shocked by is that there was apparently a principled conservative who minded misusing money.
I know, right?
Whoa, like I'm not kidding. I was super shocked by that. So credit where credit is due to Beauprez, because normally the Republican politicians, I mean, the most spectacularly Donald Trump, but a lot of them view their own supporters as a piggy bank. Suckers and losers in Trump's parlance to take money from, and of course you steal it. What do you mean? You put it in your pocket. You do it through all these things. Oh, I'm paying for my Trump Tower because I'm paying rent. Oh, I'm paying my golf courses. etc. But again, it's not just Trump. Tons of them do this type of scam, right? But in this case, this guy's actually principled. He's like, no, we shouldn't be wasting people's money. Like, whoa.
No, it's amazing. In fact, in his resignation letter, he included a metaphor that you should know about. It is a colorful metaphor to say the least. The treasurer compared his role to that of a mushroom, to be kept in the dark and fed a lot of manure. He wrote, I no longer am willing to comply.
Good for you, brother. Okay.
Seriously, I'm shocked.
Yeah, and that's the treasurer for CPAC. I got no love for CPAC, so I'm sure I disagree with that guy 100% on all the issues, but at least he's honest, and that's shocking in any politics, let alone the Republican Party. And he said that he was concerned this is going to be a disaster for CPAC. He called it the schlappening.
He did not say that, no.
I made that up, but it was kind of fun.
But he was worried that if he continued to comply, he might get bitch schlapped.
Oh.
So he's trying to do the right thing. Okay,
we're here all week.
He didn't say that either, but nonetheless, I couldn't resist. All right, but a few other concerns of his that I want to make sure you guys are aware of. So he was also concerned that board members were getting paid by the organization without the full approval of the entire board, like they're supposed to have some sort of vote on it. But those votes never happened, according to him. Now, Schlapp was violating board rules to unilaterally decide when the board would meet. That was another accusation, according to his resignation letter. And that Schlapp refused to disclose any financial information about the 2023 CPAC conference. He says that any rogue DA could target ACU and invent charges. What concerns me is that in some cases, our operating procedures are in direct conflict with our own bylaws. Thus, we're feeding red meat to the lions. So this is also to protect himself. I think it's smart. He's able to do something that a lot of people in this country, certainly those in positions of power, have either an unwillingness or inability to do, which is to see what could happen in the long run, right? Everyone's concerned about short-term gain. It appears that he's concerned about potential consequences in the long run. Now, Beauprez also spoke out against the culture over at ACU, and that's super juicy. So new hires always come in with the highest regard, but when they leave, whether by choice or get fired, they are disparaged and have suddenly become useless human refuse, Beauprez wrote, adding that employees have succumbed to professional therapists and prescription drugs.
So now that's a common theme I see in a lot
in
of
America with a lot of workplaces.
That's true too.
Yeah.
But among conservative whistleblowers, when they leave an organization, they're like, remember the Crowder's workers, let alone like almost every story we've done about whistleblowers or whatever, just people leaving conservative organizations. They're all like, Jesus, man, that was so traumatic. I can't believe how they treat human beings. Why? Did you not hear them on air? That's kind of what they said they were, that's their general attitude. And of course they act like that in real life too. So you shouldn't be that surprised. So Beauprez, overly surprised by the corruption within his organization, but tremendous credit for pointing it out. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.